What's good, everybody, man? Welcome into the Bluebloods Coach's Corner edition. Myself, my guy, Coach Fred, hosting, and we have a very, very special guest today, a guy who has appeared on the show before through media days and stuff like that. One of my favorite coaches to talk to in all of the country, man. My guy, Coach Braxton Harris, head coach at Campbell, previously the head coach at Houston Christian. And guys, all those number one recruiting classes, there's one name tied to Houston Christian's number one classes, Campbell's number one classes, and it's my guy, Coach Harris. Coach, appreciate you joining us today.
Hey, Zach, man, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I appreciate what you do for our game and bringing light to it and bringing exposure to it. And that's a huge piece for our young men to get that exposure. And thanks for what you do.
Oh, Coach, man, I couldn't do it without you guys and coming on here talking to me and helping me get out as much information as I can. But, Coach, we got to start here. Before we get into your transition to Campbell this offseason, you step into the head coaching role at Houston Christian, where no winning seasons in school history. Not a lot of people thought they could compete in the Southland. You go out, have the first winning season in school history, put up back-to-back number one recruiting classes. Talk a little bit about your job there, what made that job so enticing, and just your success that you had over one season.
Well, you know, Zach, there's a lot of people that had a piece of that pie, you know, and a lot of people that were part of that. You know, one of the attractions was that you were in Houston, Texas, right? I knew that area. I'm from that area. We didn't have to go very far to go find really good football players. And if you look at that class that we put together after that we just signed before we left, it was Houston heavy in that piece, and it was still a number one rated recruiting class. And so the attraction was the area, right? Like the attraction was the type of players that are in that area. For me, it was being able to go back to home state of Texas and be able to do that. And then at the end of the day, I was getting an opportunity to be a head coach, right? And that was all those pieces that were attractive to it. We're so fortunate there. You know, the president, Dr. Sloan, was very supportive of football. You know, he'd been at Baylor. He understood what it looked like and how important it was. And we had young men and we had coaches that believed in what we asked them to believe. You know, you're going into a program and you're asking guys to change what their thought process is, change what they were recruited to, and believe in what you're saying all of a sudden. That's not an easy task, right? And our kids did a really good job, and our coaches did a really good job of believing each and every day during that process. That success is because of what they chose to be able to do. And so I was fortunate to be a part of it. Man, we had a lot of fun. It was a great opportunity to be there. It was great to see that success. It was great to see those kids that had stuck with it at HCU, right? That they got the opportunity to have success and leave the place better than it was. I mean, you look at the Jalix Hunt. He was there. Now he was at the Reese's Bowl. He killed it at the Reese's Bowl. He goes to the combine, kills it at the combine. I mean, I think he runs the fastest time or at the top two for a defensive lineman at the combine. And he's so proud. And the thing I think is great about Jalix that people don't get is he's one of the best people as well. He's one of the best players, but he's also one of the best people. And you saw that in how he represented HCU through his time at the Reese's Bowl and at the combine. That shows that he cares more about other people than himself in that spot. And that's what made it successful there at HCU. And that's what will continue to make it successful there at HCU is Jason Bachtel got the head coaching job. The offensive coordinator was there. Jason will do a tremendous job continuing to push that thing forward. And it's about people. And I know with Jason at the helm, they got good people.
You know, Coach, I know you saw it because I know, you know, you stay on tune with what we're doing. I got to meet Jalix for the first time down at the Senior Bowl in my hometown. And like you said, man, he's such a great guy. And I think he's going to be a steal of the draft. And I've talked with Coach about this. I mean, when you look at his athleticism at that size and how raw he is as a defensive lineman, there's going to be some coach in the NFL that can turn that kid into a really, really special player. And I think probably day 3 pick is what I'm seeing a lot. That's a steal for a day 3 guy with that much potential. But Coach, you get the offer. Mike Minter steps down from head coach at Campbell. You get the call. Was this a no-brainer move for you? And was it a move that you enjoyed your first stint at Campbell so much that it was just, you knew you wanted to be back as the head guy?
You know, I don't. For us, it was this, man. Is we knew the people. Like, how often do you get an opportunity to get a phone call? First off, you get a phone call. That's a huge honor in this profession that somebody reaches out to you for a Division I head coaching job. And our athletic director Hannah Bazemore called me, and that's a huge honor. You know, it's not easy to leave a place that you're building, right? And we had so much success there at HCU. It's not easy to leave kids. It's not easy to leave families. Those are things that are never easy to be able to go through. For us, how rare is it that you get an opportunity to go to a place where you know the people, right? You know what's going on. You know the commitment. You know their heart. Most of the times you go through these processes and it's just an interview, right? And you're trying to gauge people's investment in football based off of a 30-minute to an hour dinner, maybe at a certain time. Maybe you have more conversations, right? And my wife will tell you, I can play really nice for about an hour, but after an hour, you really start to see me in those spots, right? And so for them, for us, I knew Hannah. I knew who she was. I knew Dr. Creed, our president. I knew what this place could be, and I knew how the community supported this place. For me, that was the piece that was, man, how do you pass up this opportunity? It's a great opportunity to be in a place that has success. And you look at the success here at Campbell, and I always look at it as a football coach, and Coach Fred, you're probably the same way, is how successful is the other sports at that university? Are they having success in other sports? You look at, we've had really successful basketball teams, men's and women's have had success and made the tournament in the last couple of years. You see a baseball team that's made 5 regionals in a row. You see golf programs that are highly successful. You see a wrestling program that's a nationally ranked wrestling program year in and year out. And so what you see in that, and what it shows you, is that this place and these people understand what it takes to win at a high level. And so you don't have to go in there and convince people that this is what's best. They know, and they're pushing me to be better in each and every way. And as a competitor, I want to be around the best, and I want to be pushed to be the best. And I want to surround myself with people that have the same standards that I have. And that's what you look here at Campbell. You look at all throughout our university, and we have really, really good people.
Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I'm glad you followed it up, because I don't think a lot of people understand what that means. When you look and you see a successful athletic program, that means that the school is committed to athletics, and it's going to make your job a lot easier. But as we kind of get back into the Houston Christian deal, that being what you said as far as the building, because you guys it was turning around. And you just touched on it. The second stint coming back to Campbell, did that outweigh more, or was it just the opportunity? Because you're already a head coach.
Right.
And I think we kind of talk about it on different shows about what's considered a lateral move, what's not. But being that you had already been at Campbell, how much did that go into the decision? Because I'm sure, man, we are a year away. Because realistically, from what the turnaround from year 1 to year 2, this next year, realistically speaking, athletically speaking, you guys should be knocking on the door.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, 100% on that piece. It's familiarity of a place that and that you believe in the people that are here. Coach, I think it's also one of those pieces, being able to come in the Colonial Athletic Association. I mean, this is in my opinion, this is the best conference in the nation. As far as you look top to bottom, I think last year, Zach, and you know this number better than I do, I think we had 4 teams in the playoffs. I think the year before, I think they had 4 or 5 teams in the playoffs. And so understanding the level of competition, Coach, that you're surrounding yourself, and this, that whatever conference that you're in, that's who you compare yourself to, right?
Right.
And that's who everybody does. The excitement and the appeal here is that if you have a chance to compete in the CAA, you're competing for a national championship. And that's what we're comparing ourselves. We're comparing ourselves to the best. And to me, to be able to compete at that highest level, that's an opportunity we just couldn't pass up.
I get it. And with you coming back the second stint there, has it changed much? And what I mean by change, when we're talking about moving forward in the athletic department, has it changed much? Have they changed the paint on the walls? Have things kind of went up since you've been there? You come back and like, wow, that wasn't here before. Just seeing the growth in Campbell athletics, Campbell University.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this was basically our athletic director had been in her position for roughly a year and a half, close to 2 years. And so a year of that I was gone in that spot, and you see the infrastructure that's built, Coach. I mean, you talk about directors of compliance. We got a director of compliance. Now, what football coach talks about a director of compliance positively, right? Like that just doesn't happen, right? Not awesome, right? Ours is awesome, and because they're here for the right reasons. We've got the infrastructure that Hannah has set up here within our athletic department to provide support to her coaches. Man, coach, it's not comparable to any other place in that spot, and she's done a heck of a job, and she's building this athletic department inside out. That as a coach, you look at it and you go, man, what do I need to be successful? And what do I not have that I need? And all those pieces are checked right there. And so for me, the appeal of that, as far as the change, as far as the department, where you see a unified department as well, that everybody's on the same page. Everybody wants everybody successful. We all know that's good talk, right? We all talk like, yeah, we want to support. But internally, there's always strife, right? I mean, coach, that's just hard sometimes. And there's just not that here, right? I mean, the director of compliance can walk in my office and we'll have a great conversation. The director of academics can come in here. We're going to have a great conversation because we're unified in our vision that we want what's best for our student athletes. And that goes back to leadership of our athletic director, Hannah Bazemore, and then our president of Dr. Creed, that they're unified in that our student athletes come first and we want to compete at the highest level.
So before I pass it back to Zach, so when you say that, you're saying that the volleyball coach is not eyeing you up when you come in. The baseball coach is not saying, look at him as you walk by kind of thing. We all root for each other.
Absolutely. Greg, our volleyball coach, does a phenomenal job. He's hitting the road recruiting. Our baseball coach, Justin Hare, he's what I always call him, the godfather of Bowie's Creek. When he made it to 5 regionals like he has. We want to be like him, right? Like, let's just be honest. Like, we don't have to hide behind it. They're successful. We want to be successful. And we want to be supportive of that. And one of the things that we're doing as a program is we're going out and supporting all those other programs. And those programs, like on Saturday, we'll be at a women's lacrosse game. Our whole team will be there because we want those other sports to see that we care. And that if Camels win, we all win in those spots. And that helps everything become better in those spots.
That's big time.
Coach, I know you see it because, I it's an unpopular thing I do, and that I pay attention to recruiting. And there's a lot of FCS media that hates that happens. And I know you saw it through the comments this year, but there were a lot of people when Campbell popped up #1 recruiting class, was it 3 seasons ago? Everyone was like, who is Campbell? And how are they landing a Miles Rouser or someone like that? And then you go to Houston Christian. Everyone's like, where's Houston Christian? How are they in the #1 recruiting class? Like, you guys almost had a top 100 recruiting class there. Talk about the recruiting success and what changed, because it kind of just seemed to come out of nowhere, man, where Campbell is top, I think 90 at one point. You guys were in recruiting. Houston Christian, you've had the #1 recruiting class for almost 4 or 5 straight years now. Don't give away all your secrets, but
yeah, give all of them.
But what goes into putting together such an elite recruiting class?
Well, I think first you got to give a lot of credit to Mike Minner, right? When I was here at Campbell, he let a D3 head football coach come in and be able to have opinions and have thoughts and have philosophies and be able to impact that. That takes a lot of courage as a head coach to be able to trust your assistants and let them run with it. And Coach Minner was really, really good to me in that piece. And he allowed me to be able to have the vision for that, not only as a vision. And Coach, it's one thing to be able to go do it, but he supported me in that vision of those pieces. It's one thing to allow an assistant to have an idea and a philosophy. It's another thing to back that idea and back that philosophy. And Coach Minner did that for me here at Campbell. And I think it's very simple, and it kind of sounds really cliche, Zach. We just had a D3 mindset in recruiting. I came from the background that we had to recruit 85 kids every year to make your bread, right, at the end of the day. And to do that, you had to talk a kid to come to your place and pay $15,000 to $20,000 to come play football, right? And so to do that, you can't just walk in the door and expect the kid to commit to you. Like, you've got to build relationships. You've got to build relationships with moms and dads, and they have to truly see who you are, and you have to open yourself up and expose yourself, your strengths, but also you got to expose your weaknesses and be honest about those pieces. But I think you got to be able to build those relationships in that spot. And what I think was really cool for me, Zach, was when I got the opportunity to coach at the Division I level, the things that we had success with at the Division III level recruiting, they're still the same things that are successful. It's how you treat people. Are you going to work harder for a kid? Because we always tell them it's like dating, right? If that coach ain't working hard for you right now, when you get to his campus, you ain't going to all of a sudden start opening doors. in doing those things, right? And so we want those kids to know that we're going to work for them. And we try to show that in the recruiting process.
When you look at the foundation that's been laid at Campbell, I mean, because a lot of those kids that you've recruited 2-3 years ago are still there, and now they've developed into juniors, sophomores, stuff like that. Talk about just the base level foundation of the talent that's on this roster, because a lot of people point at, okay, you have all these number one recruiting classes. When do the conference championships start popping up? When do the playoff appearances?
Right.
Where is Campbell right now as a program in terms of competing for the postseason?
Yeah, I don't know that answer because we haven't been on the field, right? And we can sit here and talk about this in March all we want, and all it is talk, right? To be quite frank, we don't know that answer, and the reality is nobody knows that answer. And if they do tell you they do, they're lying, right? Because it only matters in October and November, right? I think we've got a good baseline of talented athletes here on this program. I don't think this roster is deficient. I think we have the ability to be able to go compete. Do we have areas we have to improve? Absolutely. The reality is we all know this, and the game is changing. The guys that I recruited 2 years ago, some of those guys, they're not here, right? Because they've hopped in the portal and they've left and they've done those things. In FCS, if you have any success, you're fighting and clawing to keep your guys because a group of 5 schools trying to pick them off for $5,000 is what they're trying to do, right? And have the esteem of have an FBS logo on their chest at some point in time. And so the game is constantly changing. I think for FCS college football, we've got to evaluate how we recruit, and we've got to find guys that fit Campbell, right? Because if they fit Campbell, they get a better chance, especially out of the high school kids, that they got a better chance to stay at Campbell so we can develop them in those spots. Used to, Coach, used to get a kid, and especially if he had transferred once and then you got him, you're like, hey, I got him. He's locked up. He's mine, right? Not so fast anymore. And so I think the fit today is more important than it was 3 years ago of your university in that spot. And so I think, to be honest with you, Zach, at this level, I think you're going to see some of the places like us that have had really highly rated classes. I think you're going to see less emphasis be put on that because of how the game is changing. And if you bring a 3-star to your campus, everybody knows you got a 3-star to your campus, and it brings heightened awareness, and you're going to get that kid picked off. Now, I'm not afraid of that piece, right? But that's just the facts and the nature of the game. And we all got to understand what the game is we're playing and in those spots.
And before I toss about the coach, I've had a lot of coaches on here, from assistants to head coaches, and all of them have a different approach. There's been some coaches who have told me, listen, my goal as a recruiter is if this kid's dreams to play in the NFL, I want to get him there. But if this kid's dream is to go play at Ohio State, my job's to develop him to be good enough to transfer to Ohio State. How do you approach this new age of college football, where if you recruit a 4-star kid like a Miles Rouser, but his dream, he wants to go play at X Power 5 school, how do you handle the tampering of the transfer portal and all the madness now that is college football nowadays?
Yeah, well, I think we got to look and be honest about how it came about, right? And I think we as coaches are as guilty as anybody of allowing it to be what it is in those spots, right? And I think we got to take some ownership in those pieces. At the end of the day, my job is to develop our student athletes to be the best version of themselves that they can be. I want guys that have high dreams and high goals. But one thing you didn't say in that piece, Zach, that we want here at Campbell, I want somebody that wants a college degree. I want somebody that understands getting a private school education for free at one of the premier private schools in the state of North Carolina can change their lives forever, right? I sat down with kids one-on-one when I got here, and so many of these kids sit there and tell you, Coach, I want to be able to take care of my family. My goal is to take care of my family. My goal is to provide for my mom. And the NFL is the way to do that. My challenge to them is that's a way to do it. It's not the only way to do it in those spots. Why would you put all your eggs in an NFL basket that at the end of the day, the NFL is the biggest temp job in America, right? I mean, that's just what it is, right? Let's call it what
I've never heard
is.
it put that way. I like that.
And so why would we limit if our goal is to take care of your mom and your family, why would you limit it just to football? Why would you not open your horizons in your mind to that? Getting a business degree from Campbell can provide internships at JP Morgan, Chase Bank, a guy can come out making $180,000 out of college. Man, I don't know about you, but that's pretty good taking care of your family right there in that spot. And so the thing that we want to do is we want to open their minds to there's more than one way to get that piece done. And we think a private school education is going to help them be able to do those pieces. But ultimately, the reality is I'm developing them to be the best that they can be. If they feel like they can take their talents elsewhere and financially benefit from that, that's their choice. I'm not going to blame them for being able to do those pieces. As coaches, if we can be able to advance our options down the road and better provide for our family, we're going to do that piece. I'm not against a student athlete being able to do that. But the thing is it really better? And we got to judge what is better in this spots. And wearing an FBS logo is not the only thing that makes it better in those spots. It's the value that that institution and that program puts in you as a student athlete.
When you're talking about the development piece and how college recruiting has changed, the NIL, the whole nine, you know, I have a whole different philosophy. You have a whole different philosophy. It sounds like we're kind of saying the same thing here at Alcorn State. You know, it's about culture. It's about the fit. Do they fit the culture? And that's even when we're talking transfers. High school kids, our thing is, if the first thing out your mouth is about money, then we probably not the place for you. Just because, you know, we have a collective that does a great job in trying to help us navigate through what it is. But, you know, for you, your thoughts on departments having people set up to watch Campbell specifically for underclassmen that stand out to now we're going to re-recruit those kids. What are your thoughts on those bigger schools having those departments?
You know, that's a great conversation to be had. To be honest with you, I don't have time for that thought process. I can't control what other people are doing outside of our building, right? It doesn't matter. The reality is, I mean, Coach, to be honest, at the FCS level, the rules are not made for FCS college football at the Division I level. The big guys are calling the shots, and we can feel all kind of way about how we feel about that. The reality is that's what it is, right? And so my job is to be able to navigate our path here at Campbell and making sure that our student athletes feel like they're being valued, and we have a plan for them to be successful at Campbell, and make sure they see value in staying at Campbell in those spots. I really can't control what somebody else outside of my building does or is doing. Obviously, there's people that do things the right way, and there's people that do things the wrong way. That had never changed, right? I mean, that's always been that way in life in general in that spot. And so I'm going to make sure that we at our program do things the right way, and that we run things the way that we believe are the right things to do. And we're going to continue to push forward and focus on those. And we're not going to allow things that we can't control pull us down. And I think a lot of coaches have become really negative in college athletics right now because they're griping and they're moaning about things they can't control instead of seeing the opportunities that we have as college coaches, and the opportunities we have, and have an attitude of being grateful for what we have. Let me tell you guys, I'm thankful to be the head coach at Campbell. I walk in this building every day and I pinch myself, and I'm so thankful that I get this opportunity. I mean, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, Zach, if I thought I'd have the opportunity to be the head coach in the CAA, I'd tell you no way. And so we're not going to let what outside people do affect our inside control.
And I'm like you, I'm thankful every day to be able to walk into Alcorn State and have a job. So do you have these talks with your kids?
As far as what?
As far as the transfer portal, NIL, getting those DMs on X, formerly known, Twitter. Do you have those conversations with your kids?
Yeah, absolutely. I want our kids to know that we're here to be able to help them and be able to provide support for them. Here's the end of the day is, Coach, if we really say that we care about kids, right? Like if we really say, hey, I want what's best for you, we've got to be willing and open to have those conversations. Or what's going to happen is somebody's going to be in their DMs no matter what, right, Coach? I mean, we can't control that piece. The only thing we can control, are we going to create an environment within our program that kids feel comfortable enough coming into my office and saying, this is what's going on. Can you help me navigate this piece, right? And so we've got to create a culture and an environment within our program that there is honest, authentic conversations. And that falls back to me as the head coach to make sure we create a program where those feels like they can come in and have those conversations, that they feel like it may be what's best for them, but it may not necessarily be what's best for our program. And sometimes as a coach, you got to say, hey, man, I get it. This is what's best for you. This is not what's best for us, but I told you I was going to care about you, and I want to make sure you hear that piece. And so if it's best for you, we want you to have that piece and have that conversation.
Kid goes into the transfer portal, fishing, doesn't get anything. Is he allowed to come back to Campbell?
we're never going to say never in those spots. I think every situation is different, right? We don't, the great thing is we don't operate in hypotheticals, right? There's kids that have hopped in the portal that have not come back. And when we're at HCU, and then there's times that kids have hopped in the portal and then they've come back in those spots. The main thing for me, coach, is the honest and open communication. I want to know what's going on, and I want our kids to trust us to be able to have that communication. If they do, to me, the communication is key. If they're really looking for something that we can't offer them, man, I'm great with it. Good luck to you guys. What can I do to help in those places? And if they're just looking for money, I'm okay with that too. Just tell me you're looking for money in that spot. And then we can have that conversation about, hey, that guy threw you $10,000. Is that really a value, or is he just throwing you a bone to throw your bone? And let's have that conversation in that spot. So we don't have a direct policy as far as you in the portal, you're gone, or you can always come back. It's a case by case scenario.
Gotcha.
I like that because I think, like you said, there's so many different situations. I know different coaches approach it differently, but and like you said, coach, you gotta. I think it's always good for the former head coaches, former assistants to help their players, because a lot of kids that I've seen that I know personally, I interviewed on this channel, have got thrown a bunch of money, but they're sitting as a second or third string because they went after the money and didn't look at the true intentions of the coach.
Right.
Because I get it, because I know some G5 coaches, they'd rather have a guy 20 games of starting experience as a second string rather than a true freshman who's never hit the field, and they'll use that against them. But coach, my final two questions. I want to go back real quick to your Howard Payne years as the head coach at the D3 level. Talk a little bit about what was your biggest learning experience that you've kind of taken with you through your journey from those 3 years at Howard Payne.
Man, this is what, a 30-minute show. We're going to run out of time with this question alone. The first thing I realized really quickly, I was 31 years old when I got that job. And you always have, I coached for some really good coaches at that level. Pete Fredenberg, who's in the Hall of Fame, he won 2 national championships. I don't care what anybody else says. He won 2 national championships. And he won a lot of football games. Danny Padron took a team, won a conference championship where nobody had ever done that before there at those places. And I got to watch those guys lead. And I thought I had a great plan, and I thought I was ready. The biggest thing I learned really quickly is that nothing prepares you to sit in that seat like sitting in that seat. It doesn't mean you don't prepare for it, but I promise you something's coming along that's going to be able to change you. The biggest takeaway that I took from that, Zach, is that I have to take care of myself as a person before I can take care of my staff, before I can take care of my players. And I think a lot of coaches really struggle with that. And their intentions are really, really good, right? They want what's best for their people, and they want to take care of their people. But you can't give to people what you don't have personally. And if you don't have balance in your life, I heard somebody the other day say, if you really want to be successful, you can't have balance. Man, I don't agree with that at all, right? Like, this is a game. I love this game, but this game is not who I am as a person. If I have to give up being a dad and a husband to be a successful football coach, man, you can have it, because that's way more important than this. And so what I learned is that you got to take care of yourself. You got to take time, and you got to major on majors and minor on minors. Everything doesn't matter, right? You don't have to go to every speaking engagement to be able to build every opportunity. It's okay to say, I just can't make that work right now in that spot. And then the other thing I learned there too is, as a young head coach, be confident in who you are, right? That doesn't mean you don't have to grow and develop, but know who you are and be confident in that piece. I look back, and there's a lot of things that I did because I was insecure about myself. I had insecurities of, was I good enough? Was I a good enough leader? Was I ready for those things? And I put pressure upon other people, and I put pressure upon myself that impacted me in a way that was not positive in that spot. It's okay to say, I don't know, right? It's okay to yield to other people. It's okay to not have the answer in those spots. And I look back, and man, Zach, I really failed horribly in those places because I thought I had to have all the right answers. And I think I've done a good job of surrounding myself with people that have strengths in my weaknesses. And that takes security, and you have to be secure in who you are and who those people are to be able to yield to them, because they have an expertise in an area and a strength and a gifting in an area that I don't have in that spot. And so those are pieces. The whole piece with me was, who am I, right? And I had to learn who I was in that piece.
Coach, the final question. I know we got to get you out of here. You're the head coach now at Campbell. You know, if you had to define what a Braxton Harris team looks like with one word, the identity, the mindset, what would that word be?
Fight. Fight. We got to have a football team that fights, and we talk about that in all areas of your life, right? We want to create men that leave this program that are better because they were here. We want men that know how to fight and stay in the battle. When things don't go our way, word we talk about is persistence all the time, incessantly repeating and unrelenting. Zach, we need more men, Coach. We need more men that are persistent in their marriages, in being a dad, in their jobs. That when things get tough, they don't run; they run to those situations. And I'll be honest with you guys, and I know y'all feel the same way, and it's why you do what you do. If the game of football doesn't teach young men these things, then who will, right? Because our homes are breaking down. Those things are breaking down. The game of football is having to teach coaches like you, Coach. You're having to be able to fill more roles with your student athletes than you did 10 years ago. In those pieces, and we're filling those roles because there's a void, right? And we've got to grow young men to fight and be able to stay in the fights. And when things get tough, they don't bail, right? Our society and our culture has said if things get tough, go somewhere else, right? And I understand what the transfer portal does, but I want to, if they're here for 2 years, I want them to learn that here. If they're here for 1 year, I want them to learn that here. If they're here for 5 years, I want them to learn that here, because we need young men to leave this and go be great employees. That don't sit at the water cooler and talk about their boss. They find solutions for their boss, right? We need young men that when their marriage gets tough, that their first option is not to get out of the marriage. It is to find a way to make the marriage work and to take accountability in that piece. We need dads to be dads that will raise their kids so that they can be a part of that piece. And that's why, Zach, that I do what I do every single day, is because I believe the game of football, we have the opportunity to make that impact on 18 to 20-ish, right? Now we can say 20-ish guys, year-old men, that if they can learn those things and we can teach those things, they're going to make our society better long-term. They're going to help the world that my children are going to grow up in. They're going to make it better for my kids in that spot. And so we want to be able to fight.
Coach, I appreciate you so much, man. I know this has been a long time coming, like I said, but in the beginning, man, one of my favorite coaches to talk to in the entire country. Now, the CAA has hosted virtual media day for about 4 years now. I'm hoping it's in person so I can come up there and see you. But if not, I'm gonna make it back up to a game. The last game I went to the Central game, what was it, 2 years ago, when you guys put I think y'all ran for 400 yards that game.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. But I'm hoping to make it back up to a game. Love the stadium, love the environment. But Coach, anything you want to say to the people before we get out of here?
Just excited about the opportunity here at Campbell. You know, I think this is a place that we can grow, that we can be successful year in and year out. And I think this is a place that's doing it the right way. I think it's a place, if you're a fan out there is looking for a team to cheer for, that cares about their student athletes and wants to hold their student athletes to a standard on and off the field, this is that place. And so if you're looking for a team to cheer for, man, I think this is a great team to be able to do it, because I think we're doing things the right way. And it's something that I think people can be proud of in this day and age.
Guys, make sure to go follow Coach Harris on all social media, man. Make sure to tune into the interview. And listen, this won't be the last time you see him on this channel. I promise that. Coach, you got anything?
I'm checking out the bookcase in the back, Coach. From Houston, I don't see the grill, man. Where's the grill? There's supposed to be a grill back there.
Yeah, man, you got to know who you are, right? And I don't know if I can pull that off, Coach. Right?
I thought
you'd be looking like Kirk Cousins.
Man.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's who I look like, Kirk Cousins. Right there.
But man, guys, we appreciate y'all tuning into the Blue Bloods, man. Coach's Corner edition. Myself, my guy, Coach Fred, Campbell head coach Braxton Harris, everybody. But until next time, man, we are out for right now.